What happens when your staff treats food like trash, and people like it too? Zane Rucker leaned back in his office chair, eyes scanning the monthly reports. Food costs were up again. Guest complaints at a few hotel locations were rising. But what really got his attention was the handwritten note attached to the report from the general manager of their downtown location in Dallas. It was short. Staff morale is low. We've had 3 line cooks quit this month. Kitchen's a mess. Please advise. Zane had built the 19-location boutique hotel chain from scratch. He started as a dishwasher at 19, then learned every corner of the business before launching his first hotel at 30. Now, at 47, he was more often in meetings than kitchens, and that bothered him. He'd never actually met the kitchen staff at the Dallas hotel. Most of the turnover had come after the pandemic, and with corporate protocols and layers of management, it was easy to stay at a distance. Too easy. So, he decided to do something he hadn't done in years. He'd go in undercover. He shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, and got a pair of thick glasses. Then he called in a favor from a friend in HR, got himself on the schedule as a transfer trainee dishwasher named Logan, and booked a room at his own hotel. He even rode in through the back loading dock with the delivery truck to avoid the front lobby. It was a Wednesday afternoon when he clocked in. The kitchen was louder than he remembered. Hotter, too. Pans clanged, servers shouted, and the air smelled like burnt oil and bleach. Nobody looked up when he walked in. "Yo, new guy." A young cook called without turning. "Grab an apron and get on dish. We're buried." Zane nodded and headed to the sink. No one questioned him. They were too busy. The staff was short-handed. He counted only 3 cooks on the line, 1 dishwasher, and a sous chef who looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. He watched quietly as the team scrambled to keep up. The head chef, a stocky man in his early 50s with a shaved head and a deep voice, barked orders like a drill sergeant. "Pick up for table 24. Let's go, let's go." Zane kept his head down. He washed dishes, wiped counters, and listened. By hour 3, he noticed something strange. The chef, his name tag read Miguel, kept tossing full trays of untouched food into the trash. Perfectly edible stuff. Roast chicken, grilled vegetables, rice, even fresh rolls. "No explanation." "Just dumped." "Hey," Zane said cautiously, "that tray wasn't even touched. Couldn't we just store it?" Miguel shot him a look like he'd grown a second head. "You just wash dishes, man. Don't tell me how to run my kitchen." Zane didn't push it, but he kept watching. At the end of the night, there were at least 4 trays of untouched food thrown out. No one questioned it. No one saved anything. In the break room, Zane sat next to a young woman folding her apron. Her name tag read Vanessa Alvarez. "This happen every night?" he asked. She looked hesitant. "Yeah. Chef says it's policy. Can't reheat food. Says it's liability. That doesn't seem right." She gave a half shrug. "I don't know. The guy's been running kitchens for 20 years. But it sucks. We've got homeless folks outside asking for food every night, and we're throwing this out." Her voice cracked a little. "Last week, I asked if I could give my leftover shift meal to this woman outside with 2 kids. Chef chewed me out in front of everyone." Zane blinked. "Seriously?" "Yeah." "Said if I tried it again, I'd lose my shift meal too." She stood up, grabbed her bag. "Anyway, good luck, Logan. Don't talk too much. Just keep your head down." Zane nodded but said nothing. His jaw was tight. His stomach churned. The next night, it got worse. He caught Miguel yelling at one of the line cooks, a quiet guy named Brendan, for plating a dish with slightly brown lettuce. "You trying to kill someone?" Miguel shouted. "You think this is some dive bar?" "I'm sorry, chef, no excuses. You screw up again, you're out." Zane caught Brendan wiping his eyes near the walk-in freezer 10 minutes later. "I've been here 6 months, he said quietly. "I'm just trying to hold on. Rent's high, man. I don't have options." Zane felt something turn in his chest. This wasn't just a bad manager. This was a culture problem. He wasn't going to stay silent much longer. But first, he needed to see just how deep it went. By Friday, Zane had settled into the rhythm of the kitchen, if it could be called that. There was no formal training, no one assigned to show him the ropes. He was expected to follow along, figure things out, and stay invisible unless something went wrong. The air was thick with heat and tension, and the only thing moving faster than the servers was the clock. Every shift dragged and flew at the same time. The morning prep started early, and by 8, he was in the back unloading a produce shipment. A short, wiry man in his 30s with buzzed hair and a clipboard was checking items off a list. His name tag read Caleb AM Supervisor. Zane lifted a crate of onions, setting it gently against the wall. Caleb didn't look up. Make sure nothing's bruised. Chef freaks out if anything looks off. Zane nodded. These look all right. Caleb glanced up now, finally taking in Zane's face. You're the new guy, right? Logan. Yeah. Caleb didn't respond, just went back to his list. As they pulled boxes from the truck, Zane noticed something odd. A few of the labeled items didn't match the invoice. The box marked organic heirloom tomatoes clearly held a cheaper, standard variety. Zane hesitated. These aren't organics, he said carefully. Caleb barely glanced at them. Just mark M as received. Chef doesn't care as long as they're red. Zane squinted at the label. But we're charging guests for organics. Caleb tossed the clipboard onto a crate. You think I set the prices? Look, if you want to play auditor, go work upstairs. Down here, we move fast and keep quiet. Zane didn't reply. He logged the shipment as instructed, but the note stayed in his mind. Cutting corners on ingredients while charging premium prices wasn't just dishonest, it was theft, plain and simple. By the lunch rush, the kitchen was in full swing. The line moved fast, but not cohesively. Orders came in faster than they could be plated, and tempers flared. Miguel paced behind the cooks, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Don't oversauce that. You trying to drown the steak? No, replate it. Start over. You have hands? Use them. Zane caught the sigh from the grill cook, a woman named Jazz, as she dumped the dish and started again. Her white coat was stained and her expression flat. After the rush, Zane found her sitting on a milk crate outside the back door, smoking a cigarette with shaking hands. Hard shift, he asked. She exhaled slowly. They're all like this. I do doubles, 6 days a week. Chef says I'm lucky for the hours. Zane leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You ever get a break? 15 minutes, technically. But if we're behind, I skip it. You know how it is. He nodded, slowly. Ever get any paid overtime? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're funny. When she stood up and tossed the cigarette, she winced and clutched her wrist. You all right? Burned it yesterday. Reached over the flat top too fast. Didn't bother with a report. Miguel says injuries slow down the team. Zane's jaw clenched. He told you not to report it? Not directly. Just said anyone who can't keep up should look for slower work. That night, the dinner rush exploded. A corporate group of 20 had reserved the dining room, and the kitchen scrambled to prep. Zane was on dish when he caught sight of a server dropping 3 plates of untouched steak and asparagus into the return window. Table 7 sent these back, she said to Miguel, who was plating a risotto. He didn't look up. Why? Said they were cold.
Miguel estragado. Tossing.
Start fresh. Zane stepped forward. They haven't even been cut. Miguel turned slowly. Did I ask for your opinion? Zane held his ground. Couldn't we reheat and serve them to staff after shift? Or donate? Miguel's tone dropped an octave. You still don't get it. We don't serve scraps. Not to staff. Not to anyone. If you want to feed the streets, go volunteer. This is a business. Zane's voice was low. A business that throws away food people need. Miguel stepped closer, lowering his voice. You want to keep your job, Logan, or not? The line had gone quiet. Cook shifted, unsure whether to keep working or watch. Zane turned back to the sink, but his mind was spinning. He'd seen enough. The next morning, Zane requested a meeting with the general manager, a tall, put-together woman named Rachel. She didn't recognize him his disguise had held. He introduced himself as Logan, a new temp kitchen employee. I think you should know what's happening in the back. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Go on. He laid it out: unreported injuries, forced overtime without pay, expired produce being rebranded as premium, food waste on an industrial scale, and a culture of fear and intimidation that silenced everyone. She crossed her arms. Have you documented any of this? He nodded. I've kept notes. Photos, too. Time-stamped. I've also got statements from 2 other staff who are willing to speak if you protect their jobs. There was a pause. Rachel's gaze shifted, calculating. I'll look into it, she said. But be careful. Accusations like that can get messy. He watched her closely. Messy's already here. That night, Zane worked the grill with Jazz. Her movements were slower than usual. He noticed her limping slightly and pulled her aside. You all right? She hesitated. Slipped on the walk-in floor during lunch. Sprained my ankle. Didn't clock out, though. Did you tell anybody? She shook her head. Don't want to lose hours. Zane crouched, looking at the swelling. You need to go home. I can't. He stood slowly. You will. She looked at him, confused. Trust me. He called over Caleb. She's done for the night. Get her a ride home. Caleb frowned. Chef's not gonna like that. I'll talk to him. Caleb looked skeptical but nodded. Jazz limped off, her eyes grateful but wary. Zane found Miguel in the back office, eating a sandwich over a stack of order slips. She's off the line, Zane said flatly. Miguel looked up. Who?
Yes. Sprayne dankile.
Miguel rolled his eyes. She can still plate. No, Zane said. She can't.
Miguel stood slowly.
You think you're running this kitchen now? Zane folded his arms. I think you've forgotten what running a kitchen means. Miguel stepped forward, face inches away. You better watch yourself. You don't know who you're talking to. Zane held his gaze. I know exactly who I'm talking to. And I'm done watching. He walked out without waiting for a response. The following morning, Zane returned to the kitchen before his shift. He gathered Brendan, Jazz, Vanessa, and 3 others who had opened up to him during the week. I need you all to meet me in the lobby in 15 minutes. Trust me. They looked confused but nodded. At exactly 10, Zane walked into the hotel's front lounge, pulled off his glasses, and ran a hand through his now familiar dark hair. Vanessa gasped. Brendan dropped his phone. Rachel stood near the front desk, her eyes wide. Zane looked directly at her. I'm not Logan.
I'm Zane Rucker.
I own this hotel. Silence fell. He turned to the staff. And I owe you all an apology. Because I should have seen this sooner. Miguel's voice cut across the lobby. What is this? Some kind of stunt. Zane turned to face him.
No, Miguel.
It's not a stunt. It's accountability. Miguel looked at Rachel, expecting support. She kept her arms crossed, silent. Zane gestured to the employees he'd called down. These people have kept this kitchen running with no support, no respect, and no safety. That ends now. Miguel stepped forward. Look, I don't know what stories you've been fed, but you can't just walk in here, and Zane cut him off. I've been in that kitchen all week. I've seen everything myself. The expired produce, the intimidation, the injuries you ignored, the food you threw away while people outside went hungry. I've watched you humiliate your team, toss out full meals, and lie about inventory. You're done here. Miguel's mouth opened, but no words came. Zane looked over at Rachel. He's terminated, effective immediately. Call security. I don't want him entering the kitchen again. Rachel nodded once. Understood. Miguel backed away, eyes darting between them. This is a mistake. I've been running kitchens longer than any of these kids have been alive. Zane didn't raise his voice. And if you treated them with even half the dignity they deserve, maybe you'd still be running this one. Security arrived. Miguel didn't resist, but he didn't apologize either. He left without looking back. Rachel followed Zane into the small conference room just off the lobby. She closed the door behind them. You blindsided me. I had to, Zane said. If I'd announced a visit, people would have cleaned up just long enough to hide the truth. She didn't disagree. I knew morale was low. I didn't know it was this bad. You should have, he said. You're the GM. It's your job to know. She didn't argue that either. I'm replacing the executive chef immediately, Zane continued. In the meantime, I'll be on site until we stabilize. No more expired food relabeled. No more unpaid overtime. And no more fear in that kitchen. Rachel straightened. What do you need from me? Bring in HR. I want everyone re-interviewed, off the clock, with full confidentiality. Anyone who's been retaliated against, I want to know. I also want a full audit of payroll and inventory. And I want our legal to draft a food donation waiver so we can start giving leftovers to shelters. Rachel wrote it down without hesitation. I'm not asking, Zane added. I'm giving you your chance to prove you're the right person to stay in this building. She nodded once. I'll get it done. Zane stepped back into the kitchen 2 hours later, now in his own clothes. The staff looked up as he entered, unsure of how to react. He walked straight to the prep table where Jazz was arranging ingredients for dinner service. I won't ask you to pull a double tonight, he said. You're off after dinner. And starting Monday, you'll have a second grill cook beside you. She didn't answer immediately. You really meant all that earlier?
I did.
And I still do. Brendan emerged from the walk-in with a stack of plates. Chef's really gone? Zane nodded. He won't be back. Vanessa leaned against the metal prep table. So, what now? Zane looked around the room. Now we rebuild. That evening, Zane called a staff meeting in the empty dining room. No suits, no podium, just him standing on the floor with a notepad in hand. The kitchen crew, servers, even the janitor, gathered in a loose circle. I can't fix everything overnight, Zane said. But I can start with this. We're hiring. Not just warm bodies, but people who want to be here. You'll help choose them. We're capping shifts at 10 hours, and no one works more than 5 days a week without approval. If you're injured, report it. You'll get paid leave, not punishment. He flipped the page. Second, staff meals. Real ones. Made with care. No more scraps. And third, every dish that comes back untouched, if it's safe, it gets boxed and donated by end of day. Rachel's working with local shelters now. A server raised her hand. What about pay? Zane nodded. Good question. Everyone here is getting a wage review. If you've been here more than 6 months, you'll see an increase within 30 days. New hires will start higher. We're also reinstating full benefits for anyone working over 30 hours a week. Jazz looked up from the back. And the overtime we already did? We're auditing the past 12 months, Zane said. Every unpaid hour will be reimbursed. Everyone. No one clapped. No one cheered. But the silence felt heavier, steadier. Like the tension that had gripped the place for too long had finally cracked. After the meeting, Zane sat with Brendan in the back hallway while he cleaned his knives. I thought about quitting last week, Brendan said. Not just this place. All of it. Zane looked at him. What kept you here? My mom, Brendan said. She worked kitchens too. Told me, even when it's rough, someone's gotta stay and care about the plate. You did more than that, Zane said. You kept the place from falling apart. Brendan gave a small nod. I'm not used to people noticing. Get used to it. The next morning, 2 cooks from another hotel in the chain arrived to help cover shifts. Zane joined them on prep, slicing onions and portioning salmon. No speeches, no orders, just hands working beside hands. Rachel entered the kitchen near lunch, holding a printed report. We found 6 employees with verified back pay owed. One of them's Brendan. He's getting a check today. Zane didn't look up from the cutting board. Good. Keep going. She hesitated. There's something else. Miguel pressured one of the night cleaners to clock in under someone else's name. Said it would help balance hours. Zane stopped slicing. Who? Name's Darnell. Works midnight to 6. Non-verbal, but sharp. The guy's never missed a shift.
Find him, Zane said.
I want him on record. And make sure he knows he's safe. I already did, Rachel said. And he smiled when I told him. Zane allowed himself a quiet breath. All right then. Later that day, he found Vanessa outside the back door on her break, a styrofoam cup of soup in her hands. You doing okay? He asked. She nodded. Feels different already. Lighter, I guess. I want you to sit in on the hiring panel for the new head chef. Her eyebrows raised. Me? You've been here long enough to know who shouldn't be in that kitchen. I need people who'll tell the truth. She gave a small, real laugh. Yeah, I can do that. As the sun dipped behind the city skyline, the kitchen buzzed with a quieter energy. Not frantic, not fearful, just focused. For the first time in months, maybe longer, no one raised their voice. No one threw out food without reason. And no one looked over their shoulder wondering what would happen next. Zane stood near the dish pit, watching the team move. Not perfectly, not easily, but together. It was a start. By the following week, the kitchen wasn't running smoother, it was running differently. The changes Zane had pushed through were in motion, but rebuilding trust and structure took more than policy shifts and staff meetings. It took presence. He spent every morning in the kitchen, not behind a desk. Sometimes he ran prep, other times he shadowed quieter roles, the pantry, the early morning baker, even mopping the floors after shift. Nothing dramatic, just showing up without fanfare, listening more than he spoke. One morning, while checking inventory logs, he noticed a name he didn't recognize attached to the seafood order. Who's handling these vendor approvals now? He asked Rachel, who had just finished reviewing onboarding paperwork in the office nearby. That's been Caleb, she said. He's been managing orders since your last executive chef left. Zane frowned. We didn't assign him that. Rachel glanced at the order slip again. Want me to pull the last few months of his logs? Yeah. And cross-check with vendor invoices. I want to see if we're actually receiving what we're paying for. That afternoon, Rachel dropped a thick folder on his desk. Found something. Zane flipped through the papers, his jaw tightening with every page. The invoices showed one thing: premium seafood cuts, grass-fed meats, imported oils, but the packing slips told another story entirely. Lower-grade substitutes again and again. And Caleb had signed off on every delivery. Zane closed the folder. Where is he now? Just started his shift. He's in the dry storage room. Zane walked straight there. He found Caleb rearranging shelves, earbuds in. Zane waited until he turned around. Got a minute? Caleb pulled the earbuds out.
Yeah.
Something up. You've been signing off on food deliveries that don't match the invoices, Zane said. Want to explain? Caleb hesitated. Look, sometimes the vendors run short. I just mark it down for consistency. Chef Miguel told me to handle it that way ages ago. And you didn't think to say anything when he left? Zane asked. I figured it wasn't my place. I'm just a supervisor. Zane stepped forward. You're a supervisor who's been knowingly signing off on false goods. That's not a gray area. Caleb's voice sharpened. If you think this place ran clean under Miguel, you're kidding yourself. I was just trying to keep things moving. Zane's tone didn't rise. You could have brought it to Rachel. You didn't. You chose silence. Caleb folded his arms. So, what, I'm fired? Zane nodded. You are. Effective immediately. You'll be escorted out, and legal will follow up regarding the vendor discrepancy. Caleb didn't argue. He just dropped the clipboard and walked out. Rachel met Zane outside the storage room. He didn't push back? He knew, Zane said. He just didn't care. That night, Zane met with the remaining kitchen leads. Jazz, now stepping into a temporary leadership role, sat at the table, a slim black notebook in front of her. We need a clean vendor list, Zane said. No more shortcuts. I want every supplier re-verified and every item cross-checked. Nobody signs unless the product matches the invoice. Jazz wrote it down. We'll need someone to handle that full-time. You'll get them, Zane said. But until then, I'm covering it myself. Brendan looked up from the other end. You're doing ordering? Zane nodded. Until we hire someone with the right standards, yes. Vanessa spoke next. What about the new head chef? We're down to 2 final candidates, Zane said. Both from outside the company. You'll meet them this weekend. Jazz closed her notebook. Can I be blunt? Please, Zane said. We don't need someone flashy. We need someone who won't shout, won't dump food, and actually respects the crew. You'll help make that call, Zane said. Whoever we hire has to earn your trust. The weekend came fast. Both candidates were brought in separately to run a lunch service. The first, a former executive chef from a country club, was technically sharp but brash. He corrected line cooks mid-service, adjusted plates without comment, and barely looked at the dishwashers. When asked how he'd reduce food waste, he suggested smaller portions. The second, a woman named Carla Reyes, had a quieter approach. She asked the team questions before giving directions. She watched how they moved, made notes, and stepped in only when needed. When Jazz missed a garnish on a fillet, Carla didn't correct her in front of the team. She waited until after service and asked if she'd been rushed.
Yes, nodded.
Carla said nothing more. Afterward, Vanessa caught up to Zane in the hallway. It's Carla, she said. No question. Brendan agreed. She didn't try to prove anything. She just worked. Zane nodded. Then it's done. We'll bring her on. Carla officially started the following Thursday. She held a short kitchen huddle before dinner service.
No speeches. Just a request.
I don't care about titles. If something's wrong, say it.
If you need help, ask.
If I don't know something, I'll say so. And then she stepped onto the line and got to work. That night, for the first time in weeks, the kitchen felt steady. Not perfect. Not quick. But solid. After service, Zane sat alone in the dining room, watching as the last of the staff packed up. Rachel joined him, 2 mugs of tea in hand. You staying in Dallas long term? She asked. I'll rotate through the other locations next, he said. But I'll be back often. She nodded. You think they'll trust you again?
It'll take time, he said.
But showing up is how it starts. Rachel sipped her tea. You know, we had a meeting with the shelter this morning. They were shocked at the amount of food we donated. Said it's the highest weekly total they've seen from a single kitchen. Zane looked out the window at the street beyond. That's how it should have been from the start. The next morning, Jazz was off. Carla had insisted. She'd worked 12 days straight, and the team could manage one without her. Brendan took lead on the grill, and Vanessa guided the new prep hire through breakfast setup. Zane stepped into the walk-in to grab herbs. Inside, Darnell was reorganizing the dairy shelf, clipboard in hand. He gave a small wave. Zane smiled. Everything good? Darnell held up an inventory chart with a perfectly labeled shelf map. Each product had a colored sticker for expiration tracking. Zane blinked. Did you make this? Darnell nodded once, then pointed to the last column items nearing expiration. A separate note listed recipes those could be used in before spoilage. Zane whistled low. You just saved us a few $100s. Darnell gave a small thumbs up. Back in the kitchen, Zane tacked the chart to the whiteboard. Carla walked by, took one look, and said, "That's getting laminated." By end of day, the kitchen was calmer. The tension that once defined every shift had faded to something new momentum. Zane slipped out the back entrance as the sun dipped low, nodding to Brendan as they passed. "You heading out?" Brendan asked.
For now, Zane said.
"But you've got it from here." Brendan nodded once. "We'll keep it together." Zane paused for a moment before stepping through the door. "I know you will." He didn't need to look back. The kitchen would never run the same way again. And that was exactly the point.